right, so it's Wednesday, February 4th, 2026, and if you're listening, I really hope you have your passport handy and maybe a very specific combination of sunscreen and a heavy winter coat.
Yeah.
Because today, we are going on an absolute whirlwind tour. We're starting in the gleaming boardrooms of Dubai, taking a sharp turn into a dense 400-page government strategy document, which I will confess, I spent the morning skimming so you don't have to. And then we are ending up pitch side for a high-stakes, win-or-go-home scenario that could see a certain Balkan nation playing Mexico in Mexico City this summer.
That sounds like an itinerary designed to give you some serious jet lag. But believe me, there is a common thread here. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Republic of Macedonia, or North Macedonia, to be diplomatically precise.
Exactly. And usually when people think of this region, the brain might go to, ancient history, maybe Alexander the Great, or perhaps really excellent food, that pepper relish ajvar, right? But today is different. It's a day where high-level geopolitics collides with some really gritty domestic challenges and, frankly, some heart-stopping sports drama.
It's a fascinating snapshot of a country in transition. I mean, if you look at the source stack we have for today, and it's quite the stack, we aren't just reading headlines. We have diplomatic cables from the World Government Summit in the UAE. We have these deep dive domestic policy papers, including the brand new 2026 work program. And then there are urgent public health bulletins and a really comprehensive sports update on the World Cup qualifiers.
And our mission is to take that whole stack, especially that monster of a government report, and find the stuff that actually matters to you. We're connecting the dots between a handshake in Dubai and a soccer match in Copenhagen. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We have to start with the glitz, the World Government Summit in Dubai. It's happening right now. And the Macedonian delegation, they're not just there for the view from the Burj Khalifa.
No, not at all. This is a significant diplomatic push. You have the president, Ordana Siljanovska-Dovkova, and the foreign minister, Timothy Makrinsky, on the ground. And the headline event is a high-level meeting with the UAE president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here right away. Leaders meet leaders all the time. It's usually just a photo op, isn't it? Everyone smiles, shakes hands, talks about friendship, they sign a book, and they go home. Is this actually substantive?
And that's a fair point, because you're right. That kind of language can be, well, fluffy. But if you look at the readout from our sources, there's real meat on the bone here. They're not just talking about the weather. The discussion is specifically focused on expanding bilateral cooperation in 3 critical sectors: trade, investment, and energy. But the smoking gun for me, the thing that tells us this is real policy and not just polite conversation, is the Memorandum of Understanding.
The MOU.
Right. The foreign minister, Makrinsky, signed it with the UAE's deputy prime minister. And the specific focus is government modernization and digital transformation.
That's interesting. So they're looking to the Emirates, a place that is, basically built a futuristic society from scratch in the desert, for a blueprint on how to digitize the Macedonian government.
Precisely. It's an exchange of expertise. I mean, the UAE has streamlined its government services to be almost entirely app-based, cloud-based. For a country like North Macedonia, which is trying to modernize its bureaucracy, that is the gold standard. But if you zoom out for a second, this connects to a much bigger strategic shift we're seeing in the sources.
What kind of shift are we talking about?
Well, we know North Macedonia has been on this often frustrating, winding road to EU accession for years. It's the perennial waiting room of Europe.
Right. The endless negotiations.
Exactly. And what we're seeing now in these diplomatic cables is a pivot, not away from the EU that remains the primary goal, but a diversification. The reports indicate a distinct prioritization of the strategic partnership with the United States and other global players like the UAE.
So it's like an investment portfolio. You don't put all your eggs in the
Brussels basket, exactly.
You hedge your bets.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a balancing act. You keep the EU goal as your North Star, but you deepen ties with Washington and Dubai to keep the engine running in the meantime. You get American security guarantees, Emirati digital infrastructure, while you wait for the European bureaucracy to catch up. It's a very pragmatic move for a small nation.
Which brings us back down to earth, or rather back to Skopje. Because while the president is in Dubai talking about digital transformation, the government back home just approved this strategic work program for 2026.
The famous 400-page document.
The beast. Now, I love a good PDF, and I know you do too, but 400 pages of bureaucratic language. That's a lot to ask of anyone. I'm guessing most of our listeners aren't going to read it.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell me, what are the actual takeaways here? What changes for the average person?
Well, I did the digging, so you don't have to. A lot of it is standard governance, keeping the lights on. But there are 2 or 3 nuggets that represent really significant structural changes. First, sticking with that digital theme we saw in Dubai, the law on electronic invoices.
Electronic invoices. Okay, that sounds incredibly dry. Why does this matter?
It sounds dry, but it's actually a massive move for the economy. This is the implementation phase. It's about modernizing tax procedures to close loopholes. In so many developing economies, the gray economy, cash steals, under-the-table transactions, unreported income, it's a huge problem.
Right, businesses operating completely off the books.
Exactly. Electronic invoicing creates a mandatory digital paper trail that's much harder to fake. It forces transactions into the light, it makes the economy more transparent, and boosts tax revenue without necessarily raising tax rates on the people who are already paying. It's about fairness as much as it is about revenue.
Okay, so that's the stick, tightening up the tax system. What's the carrot? Did you find anything that helps people more directly?
The second nugget is in the labor and health section. They've released an operational plan specifically designed to fix the shortage of healthcare workers.
And this is a critical issue across the whole Balkans, isn't it? The brain drain.
Huge. It's a systemic crisis. Doctors and nurses, they get their degrees in sculpture, they get excellent training, and then they move to Germany, Switzerland, or Scandinavia for better pay and conditions. This plan talks about systemic support and mentoring.
So it's not just please stay.
No, it's an acknowledgement that the government can't just train doctors. They have to retain them. They have to support them so they don't leave the second they get their license. Mentorship implies a career path, a future within the country.
And that ties into the other major domestic policy document on the table today, which I found fascinating, the 2024-2026 Open Parliament Action Plan. This one sounds like it's about making sure politicians show up for work.
Yeah.
But you mentioned in your notes that there's a specific mechanism in there that's a game changer.
Yes. The core concept here is something called beneficial ownership.
Okay, stop right there. Beneficial ownership.
Yeah.
That sounds like pure jargon.
It is.
Can we break that down? What does that actually mean for the listener?
Think of it like a Russian nesting doll. You have a company that wins a government contract to build a highway or supply medicine, but that company is owned by another company, which is owned by a holding firm in the Cayman Islands.
So you have no idea who is actually getting the money. It's just a faceless entity.
Exactly. Beneficial ownership rules force you to open all the dolls until you find the tiny one in the center. The actual human being who benefits from the money, not the lawyer, not the shell company, the owner.
So if a politician's cousin is secretly the one building the highway, this rule exposes them.
That's the goal. It's a direct attack on corruption. When you strip away the anonymity, it becomes much, much harder to funnel public money to friends and family. It brings transparency to public tenders, which is often where the most money is lost in state budgets.
Yeah.
So when you look at the stack, digital taxes, retaining doctors, unmasking ownership, that's a heavy, ambitious domestic agenda.
It really is. But here's the reality check. While the government is planning for the future, writing these 400-page strategies and shaking hands in Dubai, the present has a way of interfering.
You're talking of the public health situation.
I am. We just mentioned the plan to support healthcare workers, and boy, do they need it right now. The Institute of Public Health is reporting that the seasonal flu epidemic is hitting its absolute peak right now, early to mid-February.
And it's hitting hard. The sources mention high incidence rates, specifically among the working-age population and kids. This isn't just a few sniffles. It's actually disrupting local sports leagues, public events. The clinics are full.
And to add a layer of irony, today is also World Cancer Day.
Right. So you have this duality. On one hand, the national health organizations are participating in this global event, talking about high-level scientific innovation, cancer control, very futuristic, very hopeful stuff. And on the other hand, the day-to-day reality in the clinics is just a massive influx of flu cases. It's a reminder that public health is a battle on two fronts: the long war against diseases like cancer and the seasonal skirmishes with viruses.
But here's the thing that really threw me in the source stack. We're talking about February. We're talking about flu season. It's winter. People are wearing coats. And yet one of the sources mentions a 30-day state of emergency due to wildfires.
I saw that and I assumed it was a typo at first.
Me too. Wildfires. In February.
That is the paradox I wanted to highlight. It catches you completely off guard. You assume February means snow or rain. but the government is coordinating resource sharing between municipalities specifically to manage wildfire risks.
That feels incredibly dystopian. You're dealing with a flu epidemic inside and checking the horizon for smoke outside.
It speaks to the environmental volatility we're seeing globally. Seasons just aren't behaving the way we expect them to. And for a government trying to implement a complex work program, these immediate crises, an epidemic, a wildfire threat, they just soak up bandwidth. You can plan for digital transformation all you want, but if the forest is burning, you have to put the fire out.
Speaking of building things, or rebuilding, there's a construction forum happening in Skopje today with a very poetic title, Where Value is Lost and Found.
A fitting title, considering the context.
It is. It's focused on regional development, but it really feels like a metaphor for the whole country right now. Trying to find value, trying to build infrastructure while putting out literal and metaphorical fires.
And while all of this serious policy work and crisis management is happening, there's a whole other sector that is absolutely buzzing today. And frankly, it's probably what most people are actually talking about in the cafes.
Oh, absolutely, the sports pages. This is where it gets really interesting, because if you think politics is dramatic, you haven't followed Macedonian football transfers.
Or handball refereeing controversies.
We will get to the referees. I know you're dying to talk about that because it is spicy. But first, let's talk transfers. There are some big moves happening today.
Indeed. First, the departure. FK Vardar is officially saying goodbye to Rogers Meadow.
The Ugandan winger.
Correct. He's off to Hearts in Scotland. It was finalized in January, but today he officially departs. It's a great move for him, heading to the Scottish Premiership. It shows that the Macedonian League is a viable springboard for international talent.
But the incoming transfer is the one that really caught my eye. FK Robotnički just signed Fabrice Ondoa.
This is a massive signing for the domestic league. For those who don't follow African football closely, Ondoa is not just some random journeyman. He's a 30-year-old Cameroonian goalkeeper with an incredible pedigree. He came through the Barcelona youth system La Masia, played for Barcelona B, and he won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2017.
That is huge. A legitimate international champion, trained at arguably the best academy in the world, playing in Skopje.
It shows ambition. Robotnički is clearly trying to bolster that defense for the rest of the season, and it adds a level of star power to the league that you just don't see every day.
And then we have handball. You teased a controversy earlier. What is going on there?
Well, first, the signing. HC Ohrid, known as the Gladiators, just picked up Vuko Borazan. He's a Montenegrin star, former Champions League winner, again bringing serious talent into the league. But the chatter isn't just about Borazan.
It's about the refs.
The EHF Euro fallout. Apparently, top referees Georgi Nechevsky and Slave Nikolov were withdrawn from nominations recently. The sources are a bit cagey on the gritty details of the politics behind closed doors, but it has sparked a huge debate in the handball community.
It's never simple, is it? Even in sports, there's always politics.
Always. And we should briefly mention the diaspora because that's a huge part of the Macedonian story. The Preston Lions just won the 2026 Maso Cup in Australia.
A big deal for the community down under.
And looking ahead, Skopje was just selected to host the FIBA U16 Eurobasket Division B this summer. The draws for that are actually tomorrow.
Which is great for the youth infrastructure. Hosting tournaments brings attention and investment. But, okay, we have covered Dubai, the 400-page report, the flu, the fires, the transfers. But we have saved the biggest story for last. This is the cliffhanger.
The road to the World Cup.
The 2026 World Cup is right here in North America. And North Macedonia is somehow still alive in the qualification process.
Still alive is exactly the right way to put it. It hasn't been a straight line. They finished third in their qualifying group behind Belgium and Wales. Normally, that's the end of the road. You pack your bags, you watch on TV.
Okay.
But thanks to a strong performance in the Nations League, they secured a backdoor entry, the Path D playoffs.
Okay, explain Path D to me, because UEFA qualification rules sometimes require a PhD to understand.
Think of it as a last chance saloon. It's a mini tournament, 4 teams, single elimination. You win 2 games, you go to the World Cup. You lose 1, you go home.
High stakes.
The highest.
Yeah.
And the first hurdle is massive. The semifinal is set for Thursday, March 26, 2026.
So about 6 weeks from today.
Exactly. The matchup, Denmark versus North Macedonia.
Oof.
In Copenhagen, at Parken Stadium.
So an away game against a European powerhouse. I mean, Denmark just won the Euro 2026 in handball. They are a sporting machine right now. That is brutal.
It is a win-or-go-home match. And to make matters worse, one of their key players, Tiomir Kostadinov, is suspended for this match because of yellow card accumulation.
So they're walking into the Lions' Den shorthanded.
However, And here is the but that keeps the dream alive. The international media is already starting to whisper. They are comparing this to 2022.
When they knocked out Italy.
In Palermo. Nobody gave them a chance then either. Italy was the European champion, and Macedonia beat them 1-0. The media is calling them the dark horse of Path D. There's a psychological edge there, the giant killer reputation.
So let's dream for a second. Let's play this out. Let's say they pull off the miracle in Copenhagen on March 26th. What happens next?
If they beat Denmark, they advance to the Path D final on March 31st. They would play the winner of the Czech Republic versus the Republic of Ireland.
Okay, honestly, that feels winnable. If you could beat Denmark in Copenhagen, you could beat the Czechs or the Irish.
And if they win that,
Ah,
they book a ticket to the 2026 World Cup. And here is the crazy part. Because of the way the draw works, we already know where they would go. Tell me.
they would go into Group A.
Group A, that's the host group.
Yes, they would join South Africa, South Korea, and Mexico.
Oh.
Just picture the dates. June 11th, 2026, North Macedonia versus South Korea in Guadalajara. And then the big one, June 24th, 2026, North Macedonia versus Mexico in Mexico City.
Playing Mexico at the Azteca, or in the capital, that atmosphere would be absolutely electric. 80,000 screaming fans.
It would be historic. It would be the biggest stage the country's ever played on. But, and it's a massive but, they have to get past Denmark first.
It's incredible to think about. We started this deep dive talking about a handshake and a palace in Dubai, discussing digital transformation. And now we're visualizing a match against Mexico in June.
It really highlights the scope of what a modern small nation state has to juggle. You have the high-level diplomacy trying to position yourself between the U.S. and the EU. You have the nitty-gritty of governance fixing tax laws, fighting corruption with beneficial ownership rules. You have the crisis management dealing with a flu epidemic and wildfires at the same time. And then you have the national spirit carried by these 11 guys running around a field in Copenhagen.
Exactly. And that is what makes today, February 4th, 2026, such a fascinating cross-section. It's not just one story. It's all of them happening at once.
It really is. We went from the boardrooms of the UAE to the wildfire risk zones of the municipalities, down to the transfer markets and the looming showdown in Denmark.
And if there's one theme that ties this all together for me, it's resilience.
Oh, so.
Think about it. Whether it's the giant killer reputation in football looking to knock out a titan like Denmark, or the push for transparency in government to root out deep-seated corruption, or just the daily grind of managing a health crisis while the forests are at risk, the theme is punching above one's weight class.
That is a great point. It's a small country with massive ambition.
It leaves you with a question, really. How does a small nation sustain that balance? How do you keep your eyes on global ambitions, like Dubai partnerships and World Cup dreams, without losing sight of the granularly difficult realities of domestic management? That tension between the dream of Mexico City and the reality of a flu clinic in Skopje, that's where the real story lives.
That is something to chew on. Can you reach for the stars while putting out fires? Literally on the ground. We'll be watching closely on March 26th to see if at least one of those dreams stays alive.
I'll be watching.
I know I will be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Macedonian pivot. Stay curious, stay healthy, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.